It's the Son of God who makes this world, this universe, a cosmos, an ordered system and not a chaos, an unformed mass. It's Jesus who's holding all of these things together. And when you think about it, if Jesus is holding all of you physically together, what makes you think you're holding your life together? A lot of times we go on in life thinking that we're the ones holding this all up and we're the ones holding this all together. And it's really not you. It's Jesus who's holding that job together. It's Jesus who's holding that marriage together. It's Jesus who's holding you together. He says he's before all things, and in him all things hold together. He's the Lord of the universe. And he could have just stopped there. He could have just said, I made my point. And then he takes it a step further. He says he's not only Lord of the natural creation, but he's Lord of the spiritual creation, the church. And he is the head of the body, the church, meaning if Jesus is not here, we could all just stay home. What is the point? He's the head of the body. Now, you know, a body without a head, it's scary, yeah. It can exist, but it doesn't have life. And so we can go on and exist without Jesus, but without Jesus, it's the guiding, inspiring principle of the church. We don't have life. And me personally, I'm committed to our church having Jesus as the head. All of this stuff is great. The Coffeehouse and the PowerPoint and the worship songs, all that stuff is cool. But without Jesus, it's nothing. It doesn't mean a thing. And so he says Jesus is the one who's guiding the church. Jesus is the one who brings it all together and brings the unity and brings the life, just like Caesar was the one to bring together the empire. He was the one that brought everybody together into unity. He says, no, Jesus is greater than Caesar. He's greater than anything. All of this stuff is just tools. It's not the main point. Anybody ever tried to eat a fork? Or drink a cup? You know, my son tries to eat the cup. He doesn't drink the water. And Paul is saying, discard the cup. It's all about the water. The cup is negotiable, but it's the water that's important. It's Jesus who is important. He's the beginning and the firstborn from among the dead. He rose from the grave. He's the beginning, the originator, and the source of life. So that in everything he might have the supremacy. Number one, Jesus. You know, it takes a lot to get used to, I don't want to call it apathy. It's not apathy. It's just, it's a different culture. You know, where I come from, if you just mention the name Jesus, people just go nuts. I mean, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. And a lot of times it just kind of passes through our vocabulary like, hey, mac and cheese, you know, whatever, football, Jesus. It's ordinary. Well, I just want us to stop and pause. If you could, I don't know, if you could just risk feeling foolish and just give some verbal praise to Jesus. All at once so you don't feel bad. So I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2. Now think about all this stuff. He's the Lord of creation. Without him, you'd fall apart. Without him, you would not even be in the church, in this community. And think about that. I just want you on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I think a lot of times we pass over this stuff like it's just routine and mundane and whatever. Me personally, this month, I've been thinking about everything else except Jesus. And you think about everything else except Jesus, you get stressed out, burnt out, because then you start doing all of this stuff in your own power, in your own authority. You start trying to juggle all of these things when really you need Jesus to hold it all up anyway. I want to stop right here. I need the worship team to come up. Don't worry, I'll continue to rest next week. And I had much more to go. But I feel like a lot of times we talk it, but we don't do it. We don't experience it. And right now we're going through this book. I'm not skipping any verses. And that's hard, because then you get to places where it hits you and it penetrates you. And if you don't stop and get into a worshipful mode, you kind of have to wonder, where is my mind? Where is my heart? That this guy imprisoned, this guy who everything that Paul worked for is now being compromised. Through all of that, he stops to worship. You ever had a moment like that where life is going bad? I've had times where I've been driving in the car and I'm thinking about everything. There's all kinds of thoughts. But you have to stop and center yourself on Jesus. Jesus, I surrender. Because my main vision for this church is that we be Christ-centered. And we could talk about a lot of things. How to get a good marriage, how to be non-stressed out. But what about Jesus? That's what all this stuff is for. He's neglected, the most neglected person in the church. I want all of us to stand.